Omuladis in Wonder Chanevano, yes, so. Senator Shehu Sani, you understand? He don't go national TV now, so he speak concerning the issue that is going on in Canada. You understand? How Canada court rule against APC and PDP as terrorist group. You understand? So not only that, he also deliberate concerning this 2027 election. He said that Jonathan should not contest in 2027 election. You understand? And he also give the reason. I want me to listen to Ramon and hear the reason why he says so. So after watching the video, please help me to share the video and also drop your thoughts under the comment section. Wonderful sugar boy.
When that kind of situation happened, do you think that is an overreach, or it reflects just a bit of what that organization, that entity feels about what APC and the PDP as political parties stand for?
You see, a lot of things are said about our country, and we seem to belittle our prestige and our role in history. That is why you hear people outside of the country calling Nigeria a nation of scammers, of fraudsters, a corrupt people, and terror and whatever. But if you go through history and see the role Nigeria played, there is no country in this continent or outside of this country that has made enormous contributions to global peace and stability. I will go a bit of history. Before Nigeria's independence during the Second World War, Nigeria was drafted to fight in Europe. Nigerians fought in Europe against the Nazi Hitler. We fought in East Africa when Mussolini was trying to occupy Somalia and Ethiopia. Nigerians were in Burma. Nigerians were in Philippines. This was the record before even our independence. Just immediately after our independence, 60s, Nigerians were in Congo to restore peace and order. And you see the role we played in the 80s in terms of bringing peace to Somalia under UNISOM. And see the role we played in Liberia and Sierra Leone. We are also in the forefront of the fight against apartheid colonialism in Southern Africa, particularly in South Africa. We lend support, logistics, and training to the revolutionary fighters there. We've supported MPLA in Angola. We supported Frelimo in Mozambique. Now, this is a country that someone will sit down comfortably in Europe or United States and simply cast aspersion and defame us and try to destroy our identity. While for all these things we have done to humanity, we got no credit for it. Now, a court in Canada, an obscure court, whether it's a magistrate or a high court, will sit down and look at a nation of 230 million people and say the biggest of their political parties that preside over their affairs are terror groups. I think it's time for everyone to learn to speak for this country. I don't think that it makes any sense. And I read a legal opinion on it. Someone was perhaps a minister under Obasanjo administration, and then he has an issue there. And the reference was made. Yeah. So we are too big as a country for a judge in Canada to look at us and say our political party.
A sweeping statement.
Yeah, we as a nation, we just mark 8 years of the attack on Hiroshima. US threw a bomb and killed about 250,000 people.
Nagasaki.
And nobody is calling them terrorists. This is a nation that has not colonized, have not occupied, we have not looted, we have not destroy and enslave other persons, and then you look at us, a nation of 250 million people, and say that
the inference
it doesn't make any sense at all.
Was the activities that goes on with members of relating to members of these political parties, where we see political violence and subversion. Those are some of what has brought up that statement in that courtroom, to have brought that appellation of terrorist or violent political party activity.
Well, it's just what I'm saying. US has two parties, Democratic and Republican parties. All their presidents have been engaged in bombing other nations and killing people. In the United Kingdom, the Conservative and Labour, they have prime ministers who are also involved.
And Trump was almost
in attacking and killing people apart. But they let such kind of courts declare them as terror parties. So it is simply trying to cast aspersion of our country. And it's not only limited to Canadian court, but this is a narrative that we as Nigerians must stand up and speak. We have made sacrifices for the peace, stability, and progress of humanity like no other country in the world. We should be given credit for that, and we shouldn't take it. I can remember there was a time a magistrate gave a ruling against Rwanda as President Paul Kagame, and the response was swift. You can't sit down somewhere in a court in a city that is unknown and of no value to us as a country and look at us and tell us that we have political parties that are terror groups. It makes no sense, and we shouldn't give credit to that, and we shouldn't give audience to such kind of ruling.
I was going to ask you, though, because your own state, when you, Kaduna, experienced a huge pressure from these bandits, and we saw some kind of approach different from what happened under your former, your good friend, Nasir El-Rufai, the former governor, and the present governor, who is also your very good friend, Sani. The approach are different. Nasir El-Rufai had said we should go into the bush and the forest and bomb these guys off. But it does look like Sani's approach is more of a carrot, and maybe he's achieving the result. In comparative analysis, what is there a lesson to learn for the rest of the states that are battling similar problems? How to tackle insecurity other than the bullets and the guns?
Well, since Sani took over office in 2023, he was able to study the political configuration and the conflicts and the hotspots in the state. and came up with this idea that if we had been using bombs and bullets to exterminate these terrorists, and it's not possible, why don't we try a different approach? And then he experimented with this idea of dialogue with these bandits, and it worked. But something miraculous about it was that he was not the first to initiate a dialogue. There was one time years ago you have dialogue in Katsina that never worked when Masari was a governor. There was one time you have dialogue with Motawalli when he was a governor, and it never worked. And other governors in the north tried that path. But the uniqueness of that of Ubasani is that it worked. Bruningwari, which is a local government in the central part of Kaduna, used to be the hub of terror groups and criminal bandits. There are some communities that are virtually under the control of these terrors, and you can't move. And they move from Bruningwari and launch attacks in Kaduna and even Kaduna-Abuja Road. And whoever is kidnapped from Abuja or Kaduna is being taken to Bruningwari and later transferred to Zamfara. Now, Ubasani, with the help of National Security Advisor and other agencies, have been able to achieve that feat. Now you have peace in Bruningwari. People can drive any time of the day. So I wonder why other governors have not adopted that. But I have read somewhere where a certain governor said what happened in Kaduna cannot happen in their place. But why don't they give it a try? For the first time, we have actually a governor that has been able to achieve this feat, and the cases of kidnapping or ransom and terror attacks are very limited in Kaduna. So you can give that credit to him.
All right, our closing moments now with Senator Shehu Sani. Senator, during the 2023 campaign, President Tinubu promised economic revival, anti-corruption fight, reforms, and 2 years later, his opposition and his critics are saying poverty remains stubbornly high and policy progress is sluggish. And there are talks about the emerging opposition coalition. They're saying the only agenda they have is sending President Bola Tinubu back to Lagos. And we're in fact hearing that former President Goodluck Jonathan there are whispers that he may have his heart and his eyes in the game on 2027. What do you make of what is going on?
Well, first of all, I don't speak for the government, but all I know is that economic reforms program anywhere in the world is not easy. And for any nation that has a vision of the future, sacrifices need to be made. That became the foundation for greatness of nations like South Korea, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. We have to make sacrifices for the future. And we're in a democracy. It is within the rights and the ambit of our democratic experiment or law or rule to have an opposition that will give an alternative. But if their only cause for power is to remove Tinubu without providing any alternative to governance of his own style, then they have no agenda. And let me be very frank on this. The people that constitute the coalition today are not ideologically and philosophically different from the programs which the Tinubu administration is prosecuting. So it's not like you have a Marxist and a capitalist or a new liberal and a conservative. They all, during their campaign,